Namahom Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. What follows is the Sri Gauranga Lila Smadana Mangala Stotra, verses for the auspicious remembrance of the pastimes of Lord Caitanya by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Translations by Dravida dasa. Rahu grasti jadashadade bhalgune punnimayam Gaude shaki manushatimati saptavarshadikeya Mayapuryam samajanichachi garbha sindhopadoshe tam chitchakti pakatitatanum vishwasunam smarami. It was in the town of Mayapur, Bengal, just after the sunset, on the evening of February 18th, 1486, that Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu appeared as the son of Jagannath Mishra from the ocean of the womb of Srimati Shachi Devi. I meditate upon that Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu who manifested his form from his spiritual potency. Vishwambara Prabhuhari Jujagora Chanda Nimbeshanam Nichayak Kamatoma Bhuva Yasyaya Kanda Mukatopama Gora Rashtri Goram Smarami Satatam Kale Pavanam Tam. Bengal is the very crown upon the pious land of India. And as Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu grew up there, he was known by various names: Vishwambar, Hari, Vija, Gaurachandra, Nimai, and Isha. I constantly meditate upon that Lord Gauranga who purifies this Kali age. Angi kovan nijasukha kadim radhika bhavakantim Mishravasi sulalita vapo gauravarno hariya Palli strinam sukamabdadat keleyamasamali vandeham tam kanakavapusham prangane ringamanam. The Supreme Lord Krishna took on the luster of Srimati Radharani's ecstatic love for him, a love that delights him unlimitedly. Thus Krishna appeared in a beautiful, charming form that bore the brilliant complexion of molten gold. He delighted the ladies of his neighborhood as he played like a small child, crawling about the courtyard of his father's house. I offer my respectful prostrations before that golden form of Lord Hari. Sarpakritim svanganam hyanantam kritvasanam yastadasopavishta Tatyajitam chadmajananorodhad vishwambaram tam panamami nityam. One day Lord Ananta took on the form of a snake and entered Jagannath Mishra's courtyard. Lord Caitanya began to play with him, but when his relatives became extremely upset at this and appealed to him to stop, he left the snake alone. Again and again I offer my humble prostrations before that Lord Vishwambar. Balye Shinvan Vadahadamati Krandanadyo Navrittas Tasmat Strinam Sakala Vishaye Namaganam Dadasit Matre Gyanam Vishidamavadan Mittika Bhakshaneyo Vande Goram Kalimalahadam Namaganashayantam. When Nimai would cry, the ladies would say to him, "Chant the holy name of Hari," and he would at once stop crying. Thus those village ladies would continually sing the Lord's holy names. One day, after he had eaten some clay, he spoke impersonal Mayavad philosophy to his mother. I bow down to that Lord Gaur Sundar, who is the universal shelter of the chanting of the holy names, and who thus wipes away the impurities of this Kali age. Bhalgandano jidiganasgrihe chapalam yo vitanvan Vidnyarambhi shishupadivrito janavi snanakali Variche pajidikulapatin chaliyamasa sarvang tangorangam Padamachapadam kautukisham smarami. At the start of his boyhood, Lord Gauranga would play childish pranks in Brahmins' homes. On his first day at school, he went with his companions to the Ganges when all the Brahmins were bathing and splashed water on the chief Brahmins, annoying them and making them flee. I meditate upon that Lord Gauranga, the supreme prankster and the king of all playful boys. Tirtam Rami Jidkulamane Bakshayan Pokvamanam Pashchatam Yo Vipalakapaya Gapaya Masatattvam Skandharoha Chalabahudaya Mohaya Masachoro Vandiham Tam Sujinasukadam Dandadam Durjananam. One day the jewel of all the Brahmins came to Lord Chaitanya's house on his travels to the holy places. And when this Brahmin cooked rice to offer to his deity, little Nimai ate it. Another time, when the Lord was carried away on the shoulders of two thieves, he bewildered them with his potency of illusion. I bow down with great respect to that Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu who pleases the saintly devotees and chastises the impious non-devotees. Aruha prishtam shiva bhakta bhiksho sankirtya rudhrasya gunanuvadam reme mahanandamayoya ishastam bhakta bhaktam pranamami goram. Lord Chaitanya became overwhelmed with bliss when he climbed onto the back of a mendicant worshipper of Lord Shiva and glorified Shiva's transcendental attributes. I bow down with great respect to that Lord Gauranga, the Supreme Lord himself, and a devotee of his devotees. Lakshmi Devya Pranaya Vihitam Mishtamannam Grihitva Tasyai Pradad Padamati Shubham Chitta Santoshanam Ya Masyas Chinnai Nijapadijunan Toshayamasa Yascha Tam Gaurangam Padamarasikam Chitta Choram Smarami. One day Lord Gauranga played hooky and went to meet a young girl who was none other than Lakshmi Devi herself. She lovingly offered him some sweets, which he lovingly accepted, and then he bestowed upon her a very auspicious benediction, which delighted her at heart. To prove to his parents that he had really gone to school, Lord Chaitanya covered his hands with ink marks. I meditate on that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the foremost enjoyer of transcendental mellows and the enchanter of my mind. Uttishta Bande Shubha Sanvarango Matre Dedogyan Manuttamanya Advaita Viti Patikairupasyam Tam Gaura Chandram Pranamami Nityam. One day the beautiful limbed Lord Gauranga sat on some shards of old cooking pots, and when his mother reprimanded him for this, he spoke to her incomparable transcendental philosophy. Again and again I offer my most respectful prostrations before that Lord Gaur Chandra, the ultimate worshipable object for the impersonalists. Dristvatu matu kadanam soloshtai stasyai dadodve sitanadi kele vatsalya bhaktya sahasa shishu yastam matra bhaktam pranamami nityam. Young Lord Chaitanya loved his mother with unfathomable affection. And when he saw how she was suffering with a serious disease, he brought her 2 white coconuts and cured her. Again and again I bowed down with great respect before that Lord Gauranga, who was infinitely devoted to his mother. Sanyasartam katapatigraharagrahe vishwarupe vishtalapai vyatadajanakam doshayama saturnam matu shokam pitadivagate sanpayamasa yascha tam gaurangam padamasukadam matra bhaktam smarami. When Vishwarup, Lord Chaitanya's elder brother, left home and entered the renounced order of life, Lord Gauranga pacified his lamenting father with sweet words. When his father passed away shortly thereafter, Lord Chaitanya consoled his grieving mother. I meditate upon that Lord Gauranga, who was the bestower of supreme happiness and who was supremely devoted to his mother. Lakshmi Devi Pranaya Vidina Vallabhachaya Kunyam Angi Kuvan Guhyamakamparat Bhovadesham Jagamam Vidyalapay Bahodanamato Prapi Yakshastra Vittis Tam Gaurangam Guhyapatibadam Dharma Murtim Smarami. Lord Gauranga married the daughter of Vallabhacharya, Srimati Lakshmi Devi, according to the holy Vedic rituals, and then he very devoutly carried out his duties as a householder. He became a professional pundit and earned much money giving learned lectures in East Bengal. I meditate upon that Lord Gauranga, the most worthy of all husbands, and religion personified. Varanasyam sujnatapalam sangamaya swadesham labdhva lakshmi vidha vashatakshokha taptam vasutim dhattvalapai sukadavachanai santvayamasa yovaitam gaurangam vidati sukadam shantamutim smarami. After Lord Gauranga ordered his pious devotee Tapan Mishra to go live in Varanasi, the Lord returned home to find his mother mourning the death of Lakshmi Devi. Thus he consoled her by giving her a charming lecture on the mercurial nature of human affairs. I meditate upon that peaceful Lord Gauranga who bestows the happiness of detachment from material affairs. Matur vakyat bhanaya vidido prapi Vishnu priyam yo ganga tire padikada janaya digjito darpahari Hare me vidvaj janakulamani shinavadvi pachandro vandeham tam sakala vishaye singhamanyapakanam. To satisfy his mother, Lord Caitanya married Srimati Vishnupriya Devi. Some time later, while sitting with his many disciples on the banks of the Ganga, the Lord humbled Keshava Kashmiri, who had conquered Pandits in the four corners of the subcontinent. Thus Lord Caitanya, the jewel of all scholars and the lion among learned Pandits, enacted his pastimes with great jubilation. I bow down with great respect to that Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu, the moon of Navadvip. Vidyavilasai navakanda madhye savandijanyo vedadaja jitva smartangstanaya yikatantakangsta tam ghana rupam pranamami goram. In Navadvip, Lord Gaur Chandra sported as a great scholar and defeated all the learned logicians and tantric philosophers. I bow down with unlimited respect to that Lord Gaur Chandra who shone forth with great splendor in these pastimes and who is knowledge personified. Viprapododikam pidva yobabu vakatamayaham vanashma charapalam tam smadami mahaprabham. One day the Lord appeared to have some serious disease, so he drank the water that had washed a pure Brahman's feet and thus became cured. I meditate upon that Lord Gauranga, the maintainer of the Varnashram system. Vreta chetre jitapadivatak savadeva panamyo mantram lebhe nijagurupadi vakprato yo disharnam godam labnva samati vikrati chadmano vacha tattvam tam gaurangam navadasapadam bhaktamurtim smarami. One day Lord Gauranga went to Gaya in the company of his many Brahmin students. There he took initiation from Ishwara Puri, hearing from him the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. When the Lord went back to Bengal, he revealed his actual identity, proclaiming on the pretext of madness that he was Bhagavan himself. I meditate on that Lord Gauranga, who has assumed the role of a devotee of the Lord, and who is an expert relisher of devotional service. Bhaktya lapar nidavadita dadvaita mukya mahanta prapta yasya rayumatishayam kirtanadhyay murari nityanando dayakatatana yo babhuvesha chesto vande godam anayana sukadam dakshinam sadbhujam tham. All the great devotees headed by Advaita Acharya discussed the truth of bhakti at length, and they took shelter of Lord Gaur Sundar, joining with him in chanting the holy names and rendering service to Krishna. Once, when Lord Nityananda had just arrived, Lord Caitanya revealed the pastimes of Krishna and manifested a six-armed form, a form of Lord Krishna, Lord Ramchandra, and Lord Caitanya combined. I bow down with great respect to that supremely powerful Lord Gaur Sundar who delights the eyes. Yakolulupa jagahovadanaya murti gupte kripam cha mahatim sahasachakara antam vyasa pujana vadhobala deva bhavan madvikayachana padam padamam smarami. The Lord showered His unlimited mercy upon Murari Gupta by manifesting before him the beautiful form of Lord Varaha. Once, when Lord Nityananda was conducting the Lord's Vyas Puja, Lord Gauranga went into deep ecstasy, took on the mood of Lord Balaram, and began to call out for the Madhvika liquor to be delivered to him. I meditate upon that Lord Caitanya, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Advaita Chanda Vibhuna Saganena Bhaktya Nityam Cha Krishna Manona Padipujite Yak Shri Vasamandananadim Padipurna Tattvam Tam Shri Naradi Mahatam Shadanam Smarami. Lord Advaita Chandra, in the company of hosts of his followers, very devotedly and constantly worshipped Lord Chaitanya, considering him none other than Lord Krishna himself. That Lord Chaitanya, Bhagavan himself, is the refuge of Sridhar and all the other devotees, and the great treasure in Sridhar's house. I meditate upon him continuously. Shri Vasaparyam Yavanam Vishodhya Chakre Subhaktam Sagunam Pradashya Bremna Sumatto Vishayan Virakto Yastam Prabhum Godabadhum Smarami. Once Lord Gauranga showed his transcendental opulences to Shivas Thakur's Mohammedan servant, thus purifying him and making him into a pure devotee of the Lord, free of all material desires and mad with the feeling of pure love of Krishna. I meditate upon that golden moon of Lord Chaitanya, the Supreme Master. Shri Rama Rupa Jagaho Bishajo Moradi Shudvastavam Gupade Mudamapayo Vai Chakre Kusanga Dahitam Kapaya Mukundam Tam Sudna Bhakti Dasadar Pavadam Smarami. When he heard Murari Gupta glorify Lord Ramchandra with beautiful prayers, Lord Chaitanya took on the form of Lord Ram in Murari Gupta's presence. Later, Lord Chaitanya, out of his great mercy, delivered Mukunda from the bad company of the atheists. I meditate upon that Lord Chaitanya, the leading distributor of the nectarous mellows of pure love of God. Agyapayat Bhagavan Navaduta Daso Danaya Gokalapate Nagareshu Namnam Savat Jivanchiyeshu Paravareshu Yastam Smarami Pudasham Kadonavataram. Lord Chaitanya directed Haridas Thakur and Lord Nityananda, his two Avaduta devotees, to spread the holy names of Krishna to all living beings, high and low, in all villages and towns, everywhere. I meditate upon that Lord Gaur Chandra, who is Bhagavan himself, and who has kindly descended to this world. Yodvaita sadhana vichalan sahasagrajena sannyasa dharma rahitam antajinam surapam tattvam vishuddham avadalalita kipuryam tam shuddha bhakti nilayam shivadam smarami. Once, Lord Chaitanya and his elder brother Nityananda Prabhu went to the home of Advaita Acharya, and on the way, in a village named Lalita, they encountered a cheating, bogus sannyasi addicted to drinking wine. The Lord gave him instructions on the true principles of pure spiritual life. I meditate upon that Lord Chaitanya, the repository of pure devotion, and the bestower of all auspiciousness to his sincere devotees. Yodvaita vadashitala shitadeshikasya prishtam vitadiyadaho sahasahariya Bremnati bhakti patagam chakaratam tam mayahadam suvimalam satatam smarami. Once Sri Advaita Acharya started preaching the deceptive philosophy of the impersonalists, and out of love and mercy Lord Gaur Hari beat him on the back and forced him to once again take up the principles of pure devotional service to Krishna. I forever meditate upon that eternal and supremely pure Lord Gaur Hari, who eradicates the illusion of impersonalism. Shri Rupa Drigh Bhajana Sagana Bhagnam Nirbhyo Yaschandasheka Dagahe Padadosa Dugdham Swam Darshayan Pradayamudnadati Sambhutam Tam Sarvashakti Vibhavashayanam Smarami. At the house of his devotee Chandrasekhar, Lord Gauranga appeared in the form of the goddess of fortune Lakshmi, and with his milk fed all the devotees there who were submerged in the sea of pure devotion. Lord Caitanya showed his transcendental opulences to a devotee named Vijay and rescued him from material life. I meditate upon that Lord Gauranga, the source of all divine energies and opulences. Nidra tyagak snapanamashanam godramado vahado grame grame vichidramaho kirtanam chalpanidra yame yame kamaniyamato yasya bhaktar babhuvus tam gorangam vajana sukadam yashtayamam smarami. In the company of his devotees, Lord Caitanya went to Godruma and a number of other villages, where he engaged in numerous pastimes, bathed, honored Lord Krishna's prasadam, and unceasingly chanted the Lord's holy names, hardly sleeping. Throughout the whole day I absorbed my mind in thinking of that Lord Gauranga, who bestows the bliss of pure devotion to Krishna. Yo vai sankirtana patikadai srinivasadi sangai tatratyanam patata jagadananda mukya dijanam duvrittanam vidya vivadam prema purnam chakara tam gorangam patata shadanam prema sindhum smarami. In the company of his Sankirtan party, led by Srivas, Lord Gauranga filled with pure love of Krishna the innermost chambers of the hearts of Jagadananda Pandit and many other sinful and degraded Brahmin throughout Bengal. I meditate continuously on that Lord Gauranga, an ocean of pure love for Krishna and the supreme shelter of the fallen. Bhava Vishai Nikala Sujanan Shikshayamasa Bhaktim Tesham Doshan Sadhya Vidyo Madhyayamasa Sakshat Bhakti Vyakyam Sujana Sumato Yo Mukundas Chakara Tam Gorangam Sajana Kalusha Kshanti Murtim Smarami. Lord Caitanya explained the path of bhakti to his faithful devotees and also taught it to them by manifesting ecstatic love of Krishna. Thus he delivered them and cleansed away all their sinful reactions. I meditate deeply upon that Lord Gauranga, who personifies forgiveness of his devotees' shortcomings. Yo vai sankirtana sukadupum chandakajim vimucha lasyo lasay nagananachaye Krishna Gitam chakara varam varam kalagadahadam shina vadripadhani tam gorangam natana vivisham dirga bahum smarami. Lord Caitanya delivered the Mohammedan magistrate Chandkazi, the arch enemy of the all-blissful Sankirtan festival. Then Lord Caitanya chanted Lord Krishna's holy names throughout the towns of Navadvip, creating a blissful dancing festival. I meditate upon that Lord Gauranga, who has long arms, who is overwhelmed by his ecstatic dancing in Sankirtan, and who cures the disease of the Kali age. Ganga daso mudadipapushak shidharak shukla vastra sarve yasya panati nidatak vrema purna babuvu yasyo chishta sanasuratika shila narayani cha tam gorangam patamapurusham divyamurtim smarami. Shuklambar Brahmachari, Gangadas, Kolavicha Sridhar, and the doctor Murari Gupta were all deeply devoted to Lord Gauranga and filled with pure love and devotion to Krishna. Srila Narayani Devi was extremely pleased when she was able to honor the remnants of food eaten by Lord Gauranga. I meditate upon that Lord Gauranga, the Supreme Person, whose form is transcendentally splendid. Shivasasya panivivishastasya suno gataso vaktratatvam padamashubhadam shravayamasa tasmai dadnasimyo pishabamatatim dattavanyak paratma vande godam kuhakadahitam jiva nistarakam tam. Imbued with unfathomable love for his devotee Shivas Thakur, Lord Gauranga brought Shivas's dead son back to life and inspired him to speak the all-auspicious truths of bhakti. Thus the Lord pacified Shivas and his servants. I bow down with great respect to that Lord Gauranga, who is Bhagavan himself, who is free of all duplicity, and who delivers all living entities from material life. Gopi bhavat padama vivisho dandahastak paresho vadasaktan atijadmatim stadhyamasa mudhan tasmateyat patipatataya vaida bhavanathan bandham gorangam vimakakadane divyasingham smarami. When Lord Gauranga became overwhelmed with the divine love the gopis felt for Krishna, some foolish smarta Brahmins whose hearts had been dried up and hardened by dry controversy and debate criticized him. When Lord Chaitanya took up a stick and struck them, they became envious of him and began to hate him and harbor a desire for revenge. I meditate upon that Lord Gauranga, who was like a splendid divine lion when he chastised those averse to him. Tesham papa pashamanamati kantake magamasi loke shakshi pramavayasi yakeshavanyasa lingam lebhe loke padmavidisham pujaniyo varenyas tam chaitanyam akachavidhitam dandahastam smarami. The Lord wanted to relieve those smart Brahmins of their offenses against him, and thus in the town of Katwa during the month of Magh he accepted the order of sannyas from Keshava Bharati. Thus Lord Gauranga became supremely worshipable for all the most learned pundits in the world. I meditate upon that Lord Gauranga who appeared with his head shaved, holding the sannyas staff. Tyaktva geham sajana sahitam shinavadvipa bhumo nityananda pranayavashaga Krishna Chaitanya Chandra brahmam ragnamagamatchanti puram yas dham gaurangam vajajagamashavishtamurtim smarami. Conquered by love for Lord Nityananda, Lord Chaitanya abandoned his home, wife, and mother and wandered throughout Bengal until he reached the town of Shantipur. I meditate upon that Lord Gauranga, whose deep desire it was to visit the holy Dham of Vrindavan. Tatra nita trajita janani harsha shokakulasa viksham tatva katapayadiva palayamasa sunum bhaktya yastad vidamanusaram chaitayatram chakara tam gorangam brahmanakushalam nyasirajam smarami. After Lord Chaitanya's mother was brought to Shantipur, she became at once joyful and grief-stricken to see her son in the renounced order, and she fed and sheltered him there for a few days. Obeying his mother's orders with great devotion, Lord Chaitanya then went to Jagannath Puri. I meditate deeply upon that Lord Gauranga, whose wanderings made the whole land auspicious, and who is the king of all sannyasis. Nityanando vibhadajagadānanda dāmodarocha lila gani padmamandapuno datta sunu mukunda ete bhaktas chanana madhupayena sardham pachelustham gaurangam panatapatala prishtamurtim smarami. Lord Nityananda, the intelligent Pandits Jagadananda and Damodar, and Mukundadat, whose skill in singing of Lord Krishna's pastimes was unsurpassed, were all deeply devoted to Lord Chaitanya and became just like bees imbibing the honey of his lotus feet. These devotees accompanied him on his journey to Puri. I meditate on that Lord Gauranga, whose divine form is so dear to his devotees. Tyaktva ganga tat janapadang chambulingam mahesham ogdre deshe ramana vipane chira chodam chavikshya Shri Gopalam katakanagadeo dadashatma rupam tam gorangam sabhajanapadam bhaktamurtim smarami. When the Lord left Bengal, which lies on the shores of the Ganges, he came to the ocean, an incarnation of Bhagavan. In the land of Orissa, which is filled with charming gardens, Lord Chaitanya saw the deity of Chirachora Gopinath, and in the town of Katwa he saw his form as Shakshi Gopal. I meditate upon that Lord Gauranga, who assumed the form of a devotee and thus became absorbed in devotional service to himself. Ekam Raki Pushapativani Ruddalingam Vanamya Yatakapo Takashivapodam Swasya Dandam Bahaya Nityanandas Tutadabasade Yasya Dandam Vabanja Tamgorangam Kapatamanojam Bhakta Bhaktam Smarami. In the forest of Kamra, which is sacred to Lord Shiva, Lord Gauranga bowed down with respect to Shiva's linga form. When Lord Caitanya came to the town of Kapotaka, he put down his sannyas staff, and Lord Nityananda picked it up and broke it. I meditate upon that Lord Gauranga, who disguised himself as a human being, and who is greatly devoted to his devotees. Bhagni dande kapatakupatastham vahayasya varga eko nila chalapatpodam prapyatunam prabhuya baba visham padamamagamat krishna rupam vilokya tam gorangam podadavapusham yastadandam smarami. When Lord Chaitanya's sannyas staff was broken, he feigned anger and left his associates. Walking quickly by himself, he soon arrived at Jagannath Puri, and when he saw the form of Lord Krishna in the temple, he was overwhelmed with transcendental bliss. I meditate upon that golden Lord Gauranga, who renounced his sannyas staff. Bhavasvadar Pakata-samaye sarvabhaumasya seva tasyanarthan Pakati-vipulan asayamasa sarvan tasman yasya prabhalakripaya vaishnavo bhut sachapi tam vedarta pachadana vidho tattvamurtim smarami. As the Lord tasted the transcendental ecstasy of love for Krishna, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya rendered various services for him. That service obliterated all the impurities within Sarvabhauma's heart, and he soon became a pure devotee of Lord Chaitanya's great and all-powerful mercy. I meditate upon that Lord Gauranga, the personified form of truth in the exposition of Vedic philosophy. Tatra Shidva Katapayadiva Dakshinatyam Jagamo Komakshitri Gadavidahitam Vasudevam Chakaro Ramanandi Vijayanagade Prema Sindhunda Doyas Tam Gaurangam Janasukadam Tirtamurtim Smarami. Soon Lord Chaitanya traveled from Puri to South India. At Kurmakshetra he cured the leper Vasudev, and at Vijayanagara he gave the ocean of pure love of Krishna to Ramananda Roy. I meditate upon that Lord Gauranga, who bestows the highest pleasure upon the living entities, and who is the personified form of all holy places. Deshe deshe sujananachaye prema vistarayam yo ranga kshetre katipaya diva bhattapalyam avatsit bhattacharyan padamakripaya krishna bhaktang stakar tam gopala layasukanidim godamurtim smarami. Wherever Lord Chaitanya went in South India, he distributed pure love for Krishna. For some days he stayed at Rangakshetra, mercifully converting Venkata, his family, and all the local pundits to pure devotion for Krishna. I meditate upon that golden Lord Chaitanya, an ocean of happiness for the home of Gopal Bhatta. Baudhan Jainan Bhajana Dahitan Tatpavadatatangsta Mayavada Gadanipatatan Shudna Bhakti Pacharai Savans Chaitan Bhajana Kushalan Yaschakaratma Shakya Vandeham Tam Bahumatadiyam Pavanam Godachandram. As Lord Chaitanya preached the truth of pure devotion to Krishna, with his transcendental potency, he converted the Buddhists and Jains, atheists all, to love for Krishna. He also converted the Tattvavadis, along with those who had fallen into the deep lake of impersonalism, into auspicious pure devotees of Lord Krishna. I bow down with great respect to that Lord Gauranga, the purifier of the mental speculators. Datvanandam kalamalahadam dakshinatye bayisho nitva grando bhajana vishayo krishna dasena sardham alalesha layapatagato nilashailam hyoyas dham gaurangam pramudidamatim bhakta palam smarami. Thus to all the people of South India, Lord Chaitanya bestowed the divine bliss of pure devotion for Lord Krishna, which washes away all the impurities of the Kali age. In the company of Krishna Das, the Lord then returned to Jagannath Puri via Alalana, carrying with him the greatly valuable devotional books Brahma Samhita and Krishna Karnamrita. I meditate upon that Lord Gauranga, who is so cheerful at heart and who protects his devotees. Kashi Mishra Jidavadagrihe Shudna Chamikarabho Vasam Chakri Svajananikadaya Yaksvarupa Pradhanai Namanandam Sakalakshamaye Savajivaya Yodatam Gorangam Sajana Sahitam Pullamurtim Smarami. At Jagannath Puri, Lord Chaitanya stayed at Kashi Mishra's house, and in the company of Swarup Damodar Goswami and his other associates, he ceaselessly gave everyone the spiritual bliss of chanting Lord Krishna's holy names. I meditate upon that cheerful and smiling Lord Gauranga, whose complexion shines with the luster of pure gold, and who is accompanied by his dear associates. Nilageshe Vratamadikate Vaishnavaryastaragri Nrityan Gayan Hadigunaganam Plavayamasa Sarvan Vremnaudiyan Kachipatimukan Sevakan Shudna Bhaktang Stangorangam Susaka Jaladim Bhavamurtim Smarami. When Lord Jagannath mounted his enormous chariot, Lord Gauranga danced before him and chanted the glories of his divine qualities. Then the Lord drowned with his tears King Prataparudra and the other pure devotees of Orissa. I meditate upon that Lord Gauranga, an ocean of divine bliss and the personification of ecstatic love of God. Odradeshad niyogodam simayam utkalasyak hitvadro bhashradandevas tam smarami sachisutam. The Lord left his Orissan devotees at the border and went to Bengal. I meditate upon that Lord Chaitanya, who is Bhagavan himself and also the transcendental son of Srimati Shachi Devi. Srivasam Vasudevam cha Raghavam sasamandire Drishtra Shantipadam yato yastam goram smaramyaham. The Lord visited Vasudev Das, Srivas Thakur, and Raghava Pandit at their homes, and then went to Shantipur. I meditate upon that Lord Gaur Sundar. Shri Vidyanagadesh Gachan Vidyavachaspate Gaham Kuleyayam Nabandvipe Yoyo Yastam Maham Bhaje. The Lord then went to Kuliyagram in Navadvip, and then he paid a visit to the home of Vachaspati Das in Vidyanagar. I worship that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Vidya Rupon Bhavadajanaya Nalabhyanarena Tham Chaitanya Prabhavada Kripan Dainya Bhavada Vapo Devananda Kuliyanagade Yasya Bhaktan Papuja Vande Goram Vibhanavadusham Shudna Bhaktye Kalabhyam. Because in Kuliyagram, Devananda Das worshipped Lord Chaitanya's devotees with great humility, he obtained the Lord's mercy, which can't be bought with any amount of money, followers, beauty, or learning. I offer my most respectful prostrations before that golden Lord Chaitanya, whom one can attain only by purely serving his learned devotees, who are free from all impurities of material life. Vrindaranye kshana kapatato goda deshe prasutim drishtva snehad yavana kavalat sagrajam rupamevo udrityaldram punadapayayo yaksvatantrak paratma tam gorangam asvajana tadanirishta chittam smarami. On the pretext of going on pilgrimage to Vrindavan, Lord Chaitanya lovingly visited his mother in Bengal and then saved Srila Rupa Goswami and his elder brother Sanatan from the devouring mouth of the Muslims. Thereafter the Lord returned to Orissa. I meditate upon that Lord Gauranga, whose heart fills with joy when he rescues his devotees from Maya. Sangam hitva bahuvidaninam baddhamekam grihitva yatram vrindavanajdamati yaschakaratma tantra riksham vyagra prabhatika pashun madihitvatma shaktyatam svanandai pashumati hadam koda chandram smarami. As Lord Caitanya passed through the Jharkhand jungle, he made the tigers, bears, deer, and other wild animals drunk with transcendental ecstasy, inspiring them with his personal divine potency. I meditate upon that Lord Gauranga, who infused the minds of the animals with spiritual bliss. Vrindaranye Giribadanadi Grama Rajiv Lokya Pova Kridas Madana Bivisho Bhava Punda Mumoha Dasmad Badro Vajvipanitas Chalayamasayamcha Tangorangam Nijajanabisham Dinamurtim Smarami. When Lord Caitanya arrived in Vrindavan and saw the many different villages, the Yamuna and Govardhan hill, he became overwhelmed with ecstatic love by remembering the pastimes Lord Krishna had performed there, and he swooned in ecstasy. Seeing this, Balabhadra persuaded Lord Caitanya to leave Vrindavan. I meditate on that Lord Gauranga who was devastated by divine ecstasy and who was submissive to the wishes of his pure devotees. Bhavavesham patipadamaho vikshitam bhagyavanto mlecha kechit chubamati balale bhare yat prasadam bhaktastecha paniyabhishaga yat prasadan babuvas tam gaurangam janimalaharam shuddhamurtim smarami. When Lord Caitanya fainted on the road in ecstasy, some fortunate Mohammedans saw him. The Lord purified their minds, and by His grace they all became pure devotees of Krishna, overwhelmed with love for the Lord. I meditate upon that Lord Gauranga, whose form is supremely pure and who takes away the impurities of a low birth. Punye Ganga Tapanatanaya Sangame Tirtavarye Rupam Vidyam Padadasamayim Shikshayamasayo Vai Brahmanam Gokulapadagatam Valnabhakyam Buddham Cha Tam Gaurangam Vasagudamanim Shastramurtim Smarami. The Lord taught the most exalted mellows of divine love of God to Sri Rupa Goswami at the holy city of Prayag, where the Gandhis and Yamuna converge. Lord Caitanya also imparted the knowledge of pure love for Krishna to the learned and wise Balabhacharya. I meditate upon that Lord Gauranga, who is the personification of the Vedas and the crest jewel of all teachers of transcendental rasas. Kashi Chetri Rasavidahitan Kevaladvaita Pakshan Bremna Plavya Sajanakapaya Sturupa Grajaya Vishnu Bhakti Smiti Vidachane Sadhu Shaktim Vitadi Bande Goram Bhajana Vishaye Sadhakanam Goruntam. By the mercy of Lord Chaitanya's devotees, the dried-up Mayavadi philosophers at Benares, who were without the nectar of transcendental mellows of love of God, were inundated with the nectar of pure love of Krishna by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There in Benares, the Lord also empowered Srila Sanatana Goswami to write transcendental books on Lord Krishna's devotional service. I bow down with great respect to that Lord Gauranga, the spiritual master of all expert devotees. Dik Gauranga Pranati Rahitan Shushkata Kadi Dugdhan Nityevam Vai Pachadavachanam Shankaranam Babhuva Nyashishanam Sadasi Mahatam Hyasya Puja Tadabhutam Gaurangam Susakamatanam Namurtim Smarami. The former followers of Shankaracharya then began to exclaim, "To hell with those who fail to bow down to Lord Gauranga! To hell with those who are being burned by the dry logic of Mayavad philosophy!" Those great souls, the kings of all the sannyasis, then worshipped Lord Gauranga with great respect. I meditate upon that Lord Gauranga, who was overwhelmed with the agitation of transcendental bliss. Brapya Chetram Punadapi Hari Bhakta Vargang Stutosha Ramananda Pramukasajanan Sarvabhaumadikanya Brema Lapar Haridasapara Yape Yamasa Varshang Tangorangam Haridasakata Svadapurnam Smarami. Upon his return to Jagannath Puri, Lord Caitanya became very pleased and showered the nectarous description of pure love for Krishna and divine mellows upon Ramananda Roy, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, and the other devotees. I meditate deeply upon that Lord Gauranga, who is absorbed in tasting the mellows of transcendental love for Krishna. Yat padabjam vidishivinatam vikshitum te mahanto varshe varshe vratapadikato godadeshat sametya Pritim labdhva manasi mahatim mondradeshat samiyo Godiyanam padamasudadantam yatindram smarami. Every year at Rath Yatra time, the great devotees from Bengal would go to Puri to see Lord Chaitanya's lotus feet, which are glorified in the prayers of Lord Brahma and Shiva. Greatly satisfied at heart, they would then return to Bengal. I meditate upon that Lord Gauranga, the king of all sannyasis and the supreme friend of all the Bengali devotees. Nivinanam vipulapatanam strishu sambasanam yat tattandoshat samatachakada rakshanatam ya isha doshat shudrad apilogaharim vajjayit vamamoda tangorangam vimulachaditam sadhumurtim smarami. To protect the sannyasis among his followers from the many vices that come from conversing with women, the Lord rejoiced upon casting Chota Haridas out of his association for an apparently small offense. I meditate deeply upon that Lord Gauranga, whose acts are always free of fault and who personifies genuine saintliness. Daivadhinan vayajanivatam tattva buddhi prabhava racharyatvam bhavati yadidam tattvam sugodham bhadyam naya pachadakripaya gyapayamasa yas tattam gorangam gunamanukadam jadya shunyam smarami. Out of great mercy, Lord Chaitanya taught Pradyumna Mishra the following confidential truth. Even if one's karmic reactions force one to take birth in a low family, one can become a guru if he wisely understands the truths of devotional service. I meditate upon that Lord Gauranga, who is free of all folly and who relishes others' divine virtues just like a bumblebee. Vatsalyena sabhajana vishadasa gosvaminam yas tattvajnanam bhajana vishaye shikshayamasa sakshat sindostire chadamasamaye stapayamasa dasam tam gorangam sachadanajasham bandhumurtim smarami. By his devotional service, Raghunath Das Goswami won the Lord's heart, and thus Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, just like an affectionate father, taught him the truths of devotional service. Raghunath Das got the great benediction of being the Lord's servant during the last part of his pastimes at Jagannath Puri. I meditate upon that Lord Gauranga, the intimate friend of those who surrender to his lotus feet in great jubilation. Purim Ramakyam Yogudajanakata Ninnanapadam Sadopeksha Brandam Kalakalashakupe Katamiha Amogam Svichakri Harijanakapali Shabalatak Chachisu Nushashvat Smananapadavim Gachatusame. The Lord was always tolerant toward the offenses committed by Ramchandra Puri, who liked to blaspheme his superiors and who seemed to have become deluded and fallen into the contaminated well of contentiousness. Lord Chaitanya welcomed Amoga into his personal association because Amoga had gotten a small particle of the devotee's mercy. May that Lord Chaitanya, the divine son of Srimati Shachi Devi, forever abide on the path of my remembrance. Sanatanam kandodasam prapidatam sparshena shuddham kripaya chakaraya Swanasha buddhim padishodhayannaho smarami godam navakanda nagaram. The Lord mercifully touched Sanatana Goswami, thus curing him of a disease that had afflicted him with painful itching sores. The Lord also purified Sanatana Goswami of the desire to commit suicide. I meditate upon that Lord Gaur Sundar, the hero of Navadvip. Gopinatam Hadipati Jora Rakshapnatantro Ramananda Nijanijitanam Shikshayan Dharma Tattvam Papa Labdham Dhanamidisadatya Jamekas Svadharmatam Gorangam Sajana Shibadam Badhamurtim Smarami. Lord Chaitanya saved his devotee Gopinath Patanayaka, the younger brother of Ramananda Roy, from the anger of Maharaj Prataparudra. The Lord then instructed Gopinath about the nature of pious life, telling him that one should not accumulate money in a sinful way. I meditate deeply upon that Lord Gauranga, who is auspiciousness personified and the bestower of auspiciousness upon his devotees. Upayanam ragavatak samadhatam punak punak praptamapi swadeshatak svabhaktato yena padat paratmana tameva godam satatam smaramyaham. Lord Chaitanya frequently received numerous gifts from his devotee Raghava Pandit, who would bring them from Bengal and offer them to the Lord with deep respect. I continuously meditate upon that Lord Gauranga, Bhagavan himself. Dailam nangi kutam yena sannyasa dhammarakshina jagadananda dattam cha smadamitam mahaprabhum. Lord Gauranga followed the rules of the renounced order to a T, and thus he rejected the sandalwood oil offered by Jagadananda Pandit. I meditate upon that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Jagannath Gadi Gadadasadanastam Vandakati Tadasha Sri Murtim Pranayavadasha Kapajadati Samaruha Skandam Yadamalahades Tushtamanasa Shachi Sunu Shashvat Smadanapadavim Gachadusame. In front of the temple of Lord Jagannath, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would view the form of the Lord from the Garuda Stamba. One day an old woman climbed up on Lord Chaitanya's shoulders so she could see Lord Jagannath. May that Lord Chaitanya, who is none other than Bhagavan Sri Hari, and whose heart was greatly satisfied by that woman, eternally travel along the path of my remembrance. Puri deve bhaktim gurachadana yogyam sumododam dayam govindaki Vishdapadicharyasidajani sadupe yakritim moradla sadupam yukuduta sachisu nushashvat smananapadavim gachadusame. The Lord felt great devotion for the lotus feet of Ishvara Puri, whom the Lord regarded as his spiritual master. He was lovingly merciful toward Govinda Das, his servant, and he delighted Swarup Damodar Goswami by revealing to him the exalted Madhurya Ras. May that Lord Chaitanya, the divine son of Shachi Devi, forever travel along the path of my remembrance. Dadanakopinam vasanamadunam shobanamayam suvanadri shobham sakalashushari dadadapi japan radha krishnam gadadudakadarakshi yugalam shachisu nushashvat smananapadavim gachadusame. Lord Gauranga wore a splendid saffron loincloth, and his form shone brilliantly like Mount Sumeru. As he chanted the holy names of Shri Shri, Radha and Krishna, a river of tears flowed from his eyes. May that Lord Chaitanya, the divine son of Shachi Devi, forever travel along the path of my remembrance. Muda gayan uchai modada hari nama valimaho natan mandam mandam nagadapatagami sahajanai vadan kakvare re vadahadi hadi chakshada yugam shachi sunu shashvat smananapadavim gachadusame. In the company of his followers, Lord Chaitanya loudly chanted the sweet holy names of Krishna and danced exuberantly in the streets of Jagannath Puri. He plaintively appealed to everyone, "Oh friend, please chant the 2 syllables Hari." May that Lord Chaitanya, the divine son of Shachi Devi, forever traverse the path of my remembrance. Rahasyam shastranam yadapadichitam bhuvavidusham shute gudham tattvam dasapadimatam prema kalitam dayalustadnyoso babadati kripavi samabada chachisu nukshasvat smananapadavim gachadusame. Out of his great mercy, Lord Chaitanya revealed the secret of pure love of God, which has 10 main philosophical truths. That secret was formerly unknown even to the sages, and the Vedic literatures did not explain it. May that Lord Chaitanya, the divine son of Shachi Devi, forever travel along the path of my remembrance. Amnayak prahatatvam hodmiha padamam sarvashaktim sabdhim tadbhinang sangsta jivan pakadikavalitang stadnhamuktang bhavat veda vedha prakasham sakalam apihari sadhanam shuddha bhaktim sadhyam tat pritame vetu padashiti hari goda chandro bhajetam. 1. Transcendental truth is proclaimed in the Vedas. 2. The first principle of that truth is that the Supreme is Lord Hari, who is one without a second. 3. He is always possessed of infinite powers. 4. He is an ocean of the various mellows that arise from the exchanges of love between him and his devotees. 5. The living entities are his separated particles of conscious energy. 6. Some living entities are completely covered over by his illusory energy. 7. Some living entities are released from the grip of that illusory energy. 8. All material and spiritual existence is simultaneously one with and different from Lord Hari. 9. Devotional service to Lord Hari is the only way that one can reach the final objective of life. 10. Pure love for Krishna is the one and only final object of life. These principles were instructed by Lord Hari himself in the form of Lord Gaurachandra. It is him I worship. Satak siddho vedo haridayita vedhak prabhitatak brahmanam satpraptak pramodibashayang tam avabadhan tata pratyakshadi pramodisahitam sadhayati no nayuktis tarkakya prabhachati tata shakti rahita. Point 1. Transcendental truth is proclaimed in the Vedas. By the direct mercy of Lord Hari, Lord Brahma received perfect Vedic knowledge and passed it on to his followers. The only principles concerning transcendental truth are the Vedic principles, which are summarized in the preceding 9 axioms. While direct perception, reason, and other types of evidence may help one understand the inspired Vedic truths, they are only auxiliary forms of evidence. Alone, reason and logic have no power to reveal the absolute truth. Hadistvekam tattvam vidishivasudesha panamato yadevedam brahma prakriti-rahitam tattanumaha paratma tasyangsho jagadanugato vishwajanaka savairadha kanto navajadadakanti chadudaya. Point 2. Lord Hari is the Supreme Absolute Truth, one without a second. Brahma, Shiva, and Indra bow down to him with great respect. His bodily glow is the Brahman effulgence, which is totally uncontaminated. The all-pervading Supersoul is his partial expansion. He is the father of the entire cosmic manifestation. His pure spiritual form has the complexion of a fresh rain cloud, and he is the transcendental lover of Srimati Radharani. Bhadakyakya shaktir apatikapi sasve mahimani stito jivakyam svam achadabhitam tam tripadikam satantre chak shaktim sakalavishaye prevanapado vikaradhyay shunya padamapadusho so vajayate. Point 3. Lord Hari is always possessed of infinite powers. All glories to the Supreme Person, Lord Hari, who is always situated in His majesty, free from any material taint or defect. He is non-different from His potencies, which He controls, and which are divided into 3 categories. 1. The Supreme Transcendental Potency. 2. The living entities, or jiva souls. And 3. Inanimate material nature. Savai ladinyascha praniyavakate ladhanavatas datasam vichakti pakatita raho bhava dasitak tayashi sandhinya kritabhishadatadhamanachaye vasambodha magno vajrasabalasi vinchayate. Point 4. Lord Hari is an ocean of the various mellows that arise from the exchanges of love between him and his devotees. All glories to Lord Hari, who relishes with great pleasure the ecstatic transformations of love manifested by his Ladani potency. and who also relishes the confidential, exalted, loving sentiments manifested by his samvit potency. He is immersed in the ocean of divine rasa in his various abodes, which are beyond the touch of matter, and which are manifested by his sandini potency. He sports and enjoys loving exchanges with the residents of Vrindavan. Spulinga ridhagnir ibichidanabo jivanachaya hade surasyeva pitikapichatad bhed vishayak vashe maya yasya prakatipati deveshadahiha sajivo muktopi prakati vashayogya sagunata. Point 5. The living entities are Lord Hari's separated particles of conscious energy. As sparks are to a great blazing fire, and as particles of sunshine are to the sun, so the living entities are simultaneously one with and different from Lord Hari. The Lord is always the master of his illusory potency, Maya, whereas the individual living beings, even when they attain liberation, are subject to Maya's influence because of their minuteness. Sarupatar hinam nijasukapadan Krishna vamukan Hare Maya dandyan gunanagada jalai kalayati tatasturlai lingai vivadabadanai kleshanakadai mahakarmalanai anaini patitan sarganadayo. Point 6. Some living entities are completely covered over by Lord Hari's illusory potency. When living entities are intent on their own pleasure, they lose all conception of their actual self-interest. And then Lord Hari's illusory potency, Maya, punishes them by binding them up with the shackles of the three modes of material nature. Then Maya covers these fallen souls with a double case of the gross and subtle material elements. And she further shackles them with the chains of laborious, selfish activities, which bring great distress. Binding the conditioned souls like this, Maya drags them up and down through the many heavenly and hellish planets. Yada Brahmam Haridasagalan Vaishnavajanam Kadachit Sampashyans Tadanugamane Syadruchiyutak Tada Krishna Vritya Chajitishanakar Mahikadasham Sadupam Vibrano Vimaladasabhogam Sakudute. Point 7. Some living entities are released from the grip of the illusory energy. After wandering on the path of illusory existence for countless eons, a fortunate soul may meet a pure devotee of Krishna, from whom trickles the nectar of the mellows of pure devotion to the Lord. If the soul follows the devotee's instructions, he is attracted to imbibe the sweet principle of devotion to Krishna. By applying himself to the constant study of Krishna Bhakti, the conditioned soul gradually abandons his illusory conditioning, and, coming again to his constitutional position, enjoys the sweetest unalloyed mellows of love for Krishna, a state that is the ultimate status of every soul. Hare Shakti Sarvam Chidachidakilam Syat Padinati Vivatam No Satyam Shruti Matavidudham Kalimalam Hade Beda Bedho Shruti Vihita Tattvam Suvimalam Tatak Prem Naksidhi Bhavadinatadam Nitya Vishaye. Point 8. All material and spiritual existence is simultaneously one with and different from Lord Hari. Everything spiritual or material is simply a transformation of Lord Hari's energies. Shankaracharya's idea that everything is a transformation of the Absolute Truth itself is a contaminated conception born out of the influence of the Kali age, and it conflicts with the genuine Vedic conclusion. The Vedas conclude that everything is simultaneously one with and different from Lord Hari, and because of this truth, pure and perfect spiritual love between the Lord and the individual living entities can be eternally manifest. Shruti Krishna Kyanam Smanananati Puja Vadagana Chatadasyam Sakyam Padachadanam Apyatma Dadanam Nabangan Yetani Havadikata Bhakti Hanudanam Vadan Shadha Yukta Suvameladatim Vaisalabati. Point 9. Devotional service to Lord Hari is the only way that one can reach the final objective of life. The 9 kinds of devotional service are: 1. To hear the spiritual name, form, qualities, and pastimes of Krishna. 2. To chant and sing these. 3. To meditate on and remember all these. 4. To serve the Lord's lotus feet. 5. To worship Him. 6. To offer respectful obeisances to Him. 7. To render various pleasing services to Him. 8. To establish friendship with the Lord. And 9. To fully surrender to Him. One who has firm faith in these 9 devotional practices, and who follows them every day, will soon be blessed with pure love of God. Sadupavastani Maradadasabhavo Dayahiha Vaje Radha Krishna Svajanajanabavam Vidibaham Vadanande Pritim Jagadatalasam Patsukamato Velasakye Tatve Padama Parichayam Salabati. Point 10. Pure love for Krishna is the one and only object of life. By practicing the principles of Bhakti Yoga, the spiritual aspirant regains his original spiritual form, and glorious pure love for Krishna in a conjugal relationship awakens within him. The devotee bears within his heart the pure loving sentiments of the intimate associates of Sri Sri Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan. In that state of pure love of God, the devotee is full of bliss, and his happiness is far greater than anything imaginable in this material universe. The devotee then attains the supreme service of the Lord, entrance into Lord Krishna's eternal transcendental pastimes. Babu kako jiva katamidamachid vishamitiva vicharyai tanatan hadibhajana krichascha chatodak habedasang dharman sakalamaparadham padihadan hadinamanandam pibadi hadidaso hadijanai. A scholar who is learned in the Vedic scriptures that describe Lord Hari's devotional service will completely abandon the desire for liberation after he carefully considers the conclusions to the questions: who is the Supreme Lord? What is the nature of the jiva souls? And what is this lifeless material universe? Such a wise scholar will become a pure devotee of Krishna, and completely rejecting all materialistic pious activities and duties, as well as all offenses to the Lord, he will drink the nectar of the bliss engendered by chanting Lord Krishna's holy names in the company of devotees. Sangsevya dasamulam vai hitva vidyamayam jana bhava pushtim tata tushtim labade sadhu sangata. When one accepts the truth of these 10 spiritual principles, abandons ignorance, and remains in the association of pure devotees, one's love for Krishna increases and one becomes supremely happy. Iti prayam siksham chadanamandupebhyak padidasham galanetrambobi snabadana jadirgo jalabapu badanandakaro jagadatalabandhu yati badak shachi sunu shashvat asmananapadabim gachadusame. Lord Gauranga is the king of all sannyasis and the unequaled friend of everyone in the universe. His tall, blissful, effulgent form is bathed in the tears of ecstatic love of Krishna trickling from his lotus eyes. He teaches these 10 truths to his devotees, who are like bees eagerly drinking the honey from his lotus feet. May that Lord Gauranga, the son of Srimati Shachi Devi, forever travel on the path of my remembrance. Gatirgodiyanam apisakalavarnashamadusham tatachaudiyanam atisadaladainyashadavidam punakpaschatyanam sadyamatsanam tatpasudiyam shatisunu shasvat smananapadavim gachadusame. Lord Gauranga is the ultimate shelter for the Bengali followers of the Varnashram Dharma system, for humble, sincere and honest orisons, and for the people in the west of India who are merciful and eager to learn the truths of the Vedas. May that Lord Caitanya, the divine son of Srimati Shachi Devi, forever travel on the path of my remembrance. Aham Misragari Sapatavahirot Kanda Vidayak Shatas Kandhe Dargyam Dadidati Vishalam Kadapado Chatodritan Vadeham Vikalitamati Gadabachak Shachi Sunu Sakshat Smananapadavim Gachadusame. When the Lord would stay at the Gambhira in Kashi Mishra's house, he would exhibit the most amazing ecstatic symptoms. With his heart full of longing and separation from his beloved Krishna, Lord Chaitanya's joints would loosen, his body would elongate greatly, and his hands and feet would expand. With his mind greatly agitated by the ecstasy of pure love for Krishna, he would fall on the ground and his words would become choked up. May that Lord Chaitanya, the divine son of Srimati Shachi Devi, personally travel on the path of my remembrance. Gato badhadvarad upalagrahamadhyad vihiraho gavam kalinganam apisamanti gachan vitiganam pakoshti sankochad batanabatatak kacha parivaha shachi sunu sakshat smananapadavim gachatusame. The doors of the inner chamber of Kashi Mishra's house were bolted shut. Yet amazingly, Lord Chaitanya was able to leave that place and go outside, where he wandered among the cows of the Tailanga district. As he lay amid the cows in extreme ecstasy, he retracted his limbs into his body, and he looked like a turtle who had fallen there. May that Lord Chaitanya, the divine son of Srimati Shachi Devi, personally travel on the path of my remembrance. Vajaranyam smitva vidhabakalanta vilapato mukam sangrishyaso vididamadikam tattadanaho Kamekanta Krishna vadavadavadeti palapatak shachisunu sakshat smananapadavim gachatusame. Lord Chaitanya was overwhelmed by the ecstatic feelings of separation whenever he would remember the transcendental land of Vrindavan. In that condition, the Lord would lament, his heart greatly agitated. He would rub his face on the walls of his room, causing his face to bleed profusely. And he would cry out, "Where is my lover Krishna? Tell me, tell me, tell me." May that Lord Chaitanya, the divine son of Srimati Shachi Devi, personally travel on the path of my remembrance. Vayorashi stiri chakadagiraji sikalite vajangoshte gova dandagini patim lokitamaho ganai sardham goro tiddakati vishishtak pramuditak sachi sunu sakshat smananapadabim gachatusame. Overwhelmed in the ecstasy of pure love of God, Lord Chaitanya took the big sand dune called Chatakaparvata for the king of mountains, Govardhan Hill in Vrindavan. The Lord then jubilantly and quickly ran to see that hill, followed by his associates. May that Lord Chaitanya, the divine son of Srimati Shachi Devi, personally travel on the path of my remembrance. Yasyanukamba sukada jananam sansara kupa dragonata dasam udritya gunja shalayadadoyas tam gora chandram panamami bhaktya. Lord Chaitanya saved Raghunath Das Goswami from the blind well of material life and presented him with a garland of gunja berries and a stone from Govardhan Hill. With deep devotion I bow down with great respect to that Lord Gaur Chandra, whose mercy delights all souls. Sadhan bhakti siddhanda varudha vadan vairasya bhavang chabahi mukanam sangam bahayartha subhakta gosyam rarajayastham panamami goram. I offer my most respectful prostrations before Lord Gaur Chandra, who cast from his association those who were opposed to pure devotional service and those who were inimical prakriti sahajas. Abandoning all such association, the Lord looked very effulgent, splendid, and glorious in the company of the saintly devotees. Namani Vishnu Bahiranga Patri Vistirya Loki Kalipavano Bhud Premantarangaya Brasandado Tam Gora Chandram Panamami Bhaktya. With deep devotion I bow down with great respect to Lord Gaur Chandra, who bestowed the nectarous mellows of pure love for Krishna upon his elevated, confidential devotees. To the general mass of devotees he taught the chanting of Krishna's holy name, and thus he purified the whole world in this Kali age. Namaparadham sakalam vanashya Caitanya namashitamanavanam Bhaktim paramyak padado janevyas Tam gora chandram pranamami bhaktya. For one who takes shelter of his name, Lord Caitanya takes away all the offenses in chanting the holy names of Krishna. He reveals the most elevated forms of pure devotional service to the living entities. With great devotion, I bow down before that Lord Gaurachandra. Ittam lila mayavadavapu Krishna Caitanya Chandro Varshan dvadasha padimatan Chepayamasa garyi Sannyasiyak samapadimatam Yapayamasa kalam Vande Gauram Sakala jagatam ashramanam gurum tam. Thus the Supreme Lord himself, appearing in his original transcendental form of Sri Krishna Caitanya Chandra, enacted pastimes for 24 years as a householder and 24 years as a renunciant. I offer my most humble prostrations before that Lord Caitanya Chandra, the spiritual master of all the universes and of all people in all stations of life. Dadidre myo vastram dhanamapedo yakadunaya bubukshunyo nadyar atitinachayan stoshamanayat tata vidnyadanai sukamatashayam yaksamabhaje sagoranga shasvat smananapadavim gacchatumamo. Out of his great mercy, Lord Caitanya gave money and clothing to the poor, and he satisfied hungry guests by giving them many kinds of food. Similarly, he gave great happiness to one and all by distributing the unparalleled treasure of transcendental knowledge. May that Lord Gauranga eternally travel on the path of my remembrance. Sannyasya patamasamaya tirtha yatra chalena varshanyo vai rasapadimitan vyapa bhaktim tatano sheshan abdan vasuvadamitan chitta deshe stito yo vande tasya pakata chaditam yoga maya baladyam. On the pretext of going on pilgrimage to various holy places, the Lord passed the first 6 years of his sannyas preaching pure devotion to Lord Krishna. For the final 18 years, he stayed in Jagannath Puri. I offer my most respectful obeisances to Lord Gauranga's pastimes, which were manifested in this world by his Yogamaya potency. Ahaha kashtam sakala jagatam bhakti bhajam vishesham gopinata layapadisare kirtane yakpradoshi aprakartyam patasamabhajan mohayan bhakta netram vande tasya prakatachaditam nityam aprakritam tat. Alas, alas, all the devotees throughout the universe were overwhelmed with grief when Lord Gauranga, enchanting everyone during the sunset kirtan at the temple of Tota Gopinath, suddenly disappeared. I bow down with great respect to Lord Gauranga's eternal spiritual pastimes, which he did not manifest in this world. Bhaktya yevai sakala samaye gauragatam imam no gayantuchay vigalatahadak Gauratirte Vishesha Deshang Turnam Jidukulamani Krishna Caitanya Chandra Premavesham Yugala Bhajane Yachati Prana Bandhu. To those devotees who, with a loud voice and a heart saturated with love of God, regularly sing this song we have composed about Lord Gauranga, especially at Sri Mayapur, may Lord Krishna Caitanya Chandra, the jewel of all Brahmins, grant pure love for the transcendental couple Sri Sri Radha Krishna. May the Lord become their dear friend. Shatkavede Prameshake Kartike Godrume Prabho Gita Bhaktivanodena Lileyam Lokapavini. In the month of Kartik, in the year 1892, in Godrumadweep, Bhaktivinoda Thakur has written this song glorifying Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes, which purify the entire world. Yat prema madhurya valasa ragan anatmajo godavahadamapo tasya vichitra vishabhanuputrai lilaamayatasya samapiteyam. To relish the intense love Srimati Radharani feels during their amorous pastimes, Lord Krishna, the son of Nanda Maharaj, appeared in Bengal and enacted his pastimes as Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. This amazing song, full of Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, is now offered to that Srimati Radharani, the daughter of King Vrishabhanu. What follows is the Sri Navadvipa Chandra Stavaraj, the king of poems about the moon of Navadvip, Lord Chaitanya. It is by Srila Raghunandana Thakur and is excerpted from the glories of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, a compendium of Vaishnav texts, translated by Kushakrata Das, edited by Srila Vidyananda Das Goswami Acharya Dev, and published by Sriman Yogeshwar Das. Akanika Ruchita Gorak Savachitaika Chorak and Pakati Modana Dehak Puna Lavanya Geha Kalita Lalita Rupa Chubna Kanda Prabhumpa Spudata Vidinatendra Shinavadripa Chandra. May Lord Chaitanya, the moon of Navadvip, who is the king of dancers, appear splendidly in my heart. His charming, graceful form is as effulgent as gold, and he has enchanted the minds of all. He is the abode of perfect beauty, and he has greatly agitated the mind of the monarch Cupid. Bahola Chikada Bandha, Snigna Mugna Prabandha, and Pasada Podaporandri, Chitta Sandhana Mantri, Vihita Vivida Vesha, Jyotita Shesha Desha, Spodata Vidinatendra, Shinavandripa Chandra. May Lord Chaitanya, the moon of Navadvip, who is the king of dancers, appear splendidly in my heart. His hair is beautiful, and he is both charming and affectionate to all. Chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, he has captured the minds of the elderly women of Navadvip. Beautifully dressed in various garments, he has made the entire country of Bengal appear full of splendor. Vikasita Shatapatra, Jyoti Vispada Netra, Priyamudala Pavitra, Snigna Drik Prema Patra, Atimodada Charitra, Prola Sacharu Gatra, Spodata Vidinatendra, Shinavadripa Chandra. May Lord Chaitanya, the moon of Navadvip, who is the king of dancers, appear splendidly in my heart. As beautiful as fully blossomed lotus flowers, his affectionate, charming, and restlessly moving eyes are moistened with pure love of Krishna. His character and pastimes are very sweet, and his beautiful limbs are resplendent. Malayajikadaviras chinvalasati dira suvamalasmita vaktra pranta vastranurokta Rabasamaya Vahada Punalilavatara Spudata Vidinatendra Shinavadripa Chandra. May Lord Chaitanya, the moon of Navadvip, who is the king of dancers, appear splendidly in my heart. He appears like a sandalwood tree from the Malayan hills. His smile is pure, and the edge of his garment is decorated in red. He is the full incarnation of Godhead, and he has descended to this world to perform jubilant transcendental pastimes as the greatest of devotees. Sakala lasa vidagna sarvambara prashudha Sakala sukha vinoda khyata nritya pramoda Sakala sukha nama danya tarunya dama Spodata vidinatendra Shinavadripa Chandra. May Lord Chaitanya, the moon of Navadvip, who is the king of dancers, appear splendidly in my heart. He is the abode of auspiciousness and youthfulness, and he is expert in all the transcendental mellows. He has become famous for his jubilant dancing, and his pastimes are full of all happiness. He purifies the heart of the great burden of materialism, and the chanting of his holy names brings complete transcendental delight to all. Aviratagaladasha Premadara Sahasra Snapada Sakaladesha Khyata Namopadesha Bhuvanavida Dasava Prani Nistara Garva Spodata Vidinatindra Shina Vadripa Chandra. May Lord Caitanya, the moon of Navadvip, who is the king of dancers, appear splendidly in my heart. Tears ceaselessly glide down his cheeks. Instructing the world in the chanting of Lord Krishna's holy names, he has inundated every country with thousands of flooding rivers of pure love of Krishna. The expansion of his fame has liberated the residents of the entire world. Ganapulaka kadamba stula mukta samabdha snapatata vidodra prema hunkala gora Sadhya Modada Murti, Vishwavikyata Kirti, Podada Vinatendra, Shinavadripa Chandra. May Lord Caitanya, the moon of Navadvip, who is the king of dancers, appear splendidly in my heart. Impelled by the ecstasy of pure love of Krishna, the hairs of his body stand up, making him appear like a kadamba tree. Appearing like large pearls, the tears from his eyes bathe his chest. In the agony of intense separation from Krishna, he calls out, "Alas, alas!" He is full of compassion, and his form is very handsome, and his fame is spread throughout the entire universe. Akala bhuvana bhatta dugati tranakarta kalikalashanahanda dina dukkaya kashanto Nidabadi nijagata kirtanananda data Spodatu vidinatendra Shinavadripa Chandra. May Lord Caitanya, the moon of Navadvip, who is the king of dancers, appear splendidly in my heart. He is the maintainer of all the universes and the destroyer of all the impurities born of the age of Kali. He removes the sufferings of the poor conditioned souls and protects them from the calamity of material existence. He grants them the unlimited transcendental bliss of the Sankirtan movement, which glorifies the singing of his own holy names. Asudha munigana bandhu prema bhakteka sindhu pakata sudabinanda shila pararavinda natana modada manda supagada prabandha spodatu vidinatendra shinavadripa chandra. May Lord Caitanya, the moon of Navadvip, who is the king of dancers, appear splendidly in my heart. He is the dear friend of the saintly and thoughtful devotees, and he alone is the ocean of devotional service in pure love of God. His aromatic and delightful lotus feet are the abode of all beauty and opulence. He dances with a slow gracefulness, and he is the most austere of sannyasis. Sakalandagammasara prema purnavatara Prachudaguna savasandhana dira Adama patada bandhu purna karunya sindhu Spodatu vidinatendra shinavadripa chandra. May Lord Caitanya, the moon of Navadvip, who is the king of dancers, appear splendidly in my heart. He is the essence of the Vedas and the perfect incarnation of pure love of Krishna. He is a deep reservoir full of all auspicious transcendental qualities, and he is the most learned philosopher whose Sankirtan movement has brought peace and spiritual brotherhood to the entire world. Appearing like an overflooding ocean of mercy, he is the friend of the most fallen souls. Modani mani manogyas tandavadyanta vigyas Todani mani vichitra prema nistara patra Mahiman nijanama grahi sampurna kama Spodata vidinatendra shinavadripa chandra. May Lord Caitanya, the moon of Navadvip, who is the king of dancers, appear splendidly in my heart. He is the most charming, handsome, and wonderfully youthful person, the all-knowing expert of enthusiastic dancing, and a great reservoir of pure love of Krishna. He is always very eager to chant his own holy names. Shri Gauranga Natendrasya Sutimetam Abhishtadam Yakpated Padamaprita Saprema Sukhabhugmave. These prayers glorify Lord Gauranga, the king of dancers, and grant all benedictions to the devotees. Those who delight in reading these prayers will become able to relish the transcendental bliss of pure love of God. What follows is a small selection of verses excerpted from the Sri Caitanya Charitamrita about Lord Chaitanya. First from Madhya Lila, chapter 10, text 119. This is composed by Srila Sarup Damodar Goswami. Helo dunitake daya vishadaya pronilada mondaya shamya chastra babadaya visadaya chittarpitonmadaya shashod bhakti vanodaya samadaya madhuryamaryadaya shri chaitanyadaya nadetavadaya bhuyadamandhodaya. O ocean of mercy, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, let there be an awakening of your auspicious mercy which easily drives away all kinds of material lamentation. By your mercy everything is made pure and blissful. It awakens transcendental bliss and covers all gross material pleasures. By your auspicious mercy quarrels and disagreements arising among different scriptures are vanquished. Your auspicious mercy causes the heart to jubilate by pouring forth transcendental mellows. Your mercy always stimulates devotional service, which is full of joy. You are always glorifying the conjugal love of God. May transcendental bliss be awakened within my heart by your causeless mercy. All the translations in this section are, of course, by Srila Prabhupada. From the Caitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila, chapter 1, text 4. Anarpita charim charata kadana yavati nakalo samapahita munnato jaradasam subhakti shriyam Hari purata sundara jutikadamba sandipata sada vidya kandare pudatu vakshachi nandana. May that Lord who is known as the son of Srimati Shachi Devi be transcendentally situated in the innermost core of your heart. Resplendent with the radiance of molten gold, he has descended in the age of Kali by his causeless mercy to bestow what no incarnation has ever offered before. The most elevated mellow of devotional service, the mellow of conjugal love. Adi Lila, chapter 2, text 2. Krishnot kirtana gananartana kalapatho janim brajita sadbhaktavali hangsa chakramodapashreni vaharaspadam Karnanandi kaladvanayar vahatume jiva maru prangane Shri Chaitanya dayanandi tabala salila sudasvaduni. O my most merciful Lord Chaitanya, may the shining nectarian Ganges waters of your transcendental activities flow over the surface of my desert-like tongue. Beautifying these waters are the lotus flowers of singing, dancing, and loud chanting of Krishna's holy name, which are the pleasure abodes of unalloyed devotees. These devotees are like swans, ducks, and bees, and the river's flowing produces a melodious sound that gladdens their ears.